Hey, deep divers, welcome back. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know what you think of this deep dive down in the comments.
Sounds good.
Today,
Okay.
we're going to be diving headfirst into an article
Okay.
that examines some pretty intense stuff.
Okay.
Donald Trump's rhetoric.
All right.
Specifically, we're looking at moments where his words veer into the territory of threats and violence.
Interesting.
Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, let me be clear.
Sure.
We're here to unpack what the article says,
Okay.
not to wave any political flags.
Right.
We trust you, our awesome viewers, to form your own opinions. Consider us your guides through this wild terrain of words.
Yeah, the article kicks off with a term Trump's been using, enemy from within.
Okay.
And it's pretty chilling to see how he slaps his label on various groups.
Right.
What's particularly alarming is the historical context. You know, the article even draws a parallel to a 1939 Nazi rally in Madison Square Garden, highlighting the dangerous implications of such divisive language.
Okay, so the article's main argument is that Trump's rhetoric has been getting increasingly violent, especially as we inch closer to the 2024 election.
Right.
To illustrate this, they present a sort of timeline of these instances, starting with Liz Cheney.
Okay.
You know, the Republican who's been a vocal critic of Trump.
Exactly. And the article doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
It describes a recent campaign event where Trump suggested putting Cheney with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her.
Oh, wow.
That's not your typical political jab.
No.
That's language that evokes real fear and raises serious concerns about the potential consequences for Cheney and the political landscape as a whole.
It's definitely unsettling.
Yeah.
And it's not just a one-off comment.
Right.
The article goes on to talk about Trump's remarks regarding General Mark Milley.
Right. We're talking about the phone call Milley made to China after the January 6th insurrection.
Right.
Trump actually called for Milley's execution. The irony here is that the call was approved by Trump's own administration.
Oh, wow.
This raises some serious questions about Trump's understanding of the law and the potential for him to abuse power.
Up next, we have President Biden himself.
The article details an incident where Trump shared a video depicting President Biden in a very compromising position, basically tied up.
Really?
This kind of imagery goes way beyond political disagreement.
Yeah.
It's a blatant attempt to incite fear and aggression towards his opponent.
It's almost like he's trying to dehumanize Biden and encourage violence against him.
Exactly, and that normalization of violence is what makes this rhetoric so dangerous.
And then, of course, we have the Mike Pence situation.
Right.
There's no ignoring the events of January 6th and the role Trump's words played in that whole mess.
Absolutely. The article revisits those events and dissects Trump's statements before, during, and after the Capitol riot. Comments like, if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore, are cited as examples of him pushing people towards violence. And let's not forget that infamous tweet about Pence lacking courage, which not so coincidentally happened at the same time the Hang Mike Pence chants were echoing through the Capitol.
It's scary to think how much worse that day could have been.
Yeah.
It really underscores the power of words, especially when those words are coming from someone with as big a platform as Trump.
Right, and it's not just his political rivals who are in the crosshairs.
Really?
The article goes on to detail how he's even targeted the press.
Wait, seriously? The people who are supposed to report the news?
You heard that right. The article mentions Trump suggesting that journalists who refuse to reveal their sources should be thrown in jail.
Wow.
This is a direct attack on freedom of the press and could have a chilling effect on investigative journalism. It's a very dangerous precedent to set.
That's intense.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the list goes on. The article also delves into Trump's response to the racial justice protests that erupted after George Floyd's murder.
You mean that when the looting starts, the shooting starts tweet? The one that caused so much controversy?
That's the one. The article highlights that tweet, along with allegations that Trump even suggested shooting protesters in the legs. This kind of language, especially from a figure of such immense power, is incredibly reckless. It throws fuel on an already volatile situation and risks normalizing violence against those exercising their right to protest.
It's like adding gasoline to a fire that's already raging out of control.
All right.
And the article also touches on his comments about illegal immigrants.
Yes. It brings up Trump's statement that removing illegal immigrants would be a bloody story. This language is dehumanizing and paints a disturbing picture of what he envisions. It's not hard to see how this type of rhetoric could incite fear and hatred towards entire communities.
So the article lays out all these instances of Trump's aggressive rhetoric, but it also goes a step further and explores the potential consequences. It's one thing to talk tough, but What happens if he actually tries to act on these threats?
That's where things get truly alarming. The article argues that if Trump were to regain power, he could potentially weaponize the Justice Department and the FBI to go after his political enemies. It also cites concerns from former military officials about the possibility of Trump misusing the armed forces for his own domestic interests.
That's a chilling thought. Using the military against American citizens. That sounds like something out of a dystopian novel, not a democracy.
It's definitely a slippery slope, and the article emphasizes the importance of checks and balances within our system to prevent such an abuse of power. It also highlights the crucial role of the media and the public in holding leaders accountable for their words and actions.
So what does this all mean for us, for everyday citizens trying to make sense of this increasingly polarized political landscape? What are the key takeaways here?
I think the article serves as a powerful reminder of the immense power of language and the crucial importance of critical thinking. We need to be aware of how rhetoric can be used to manipulate, incite violence, and sow division. We also have a responsibility to be vigilant in defending democratic institutions and holding our leaders accountable for their words and actions.
It's a stark reminder that words have consequences. We can't just sit back and pretend that this isn't happening. We have to engage in these conversations and challenge misinformation wherever we see it.
Exactly. We need to promote a culture of respect and civility in our political discourse. It's the only way to move forward constructively.
Well said. And remember, this deep dive is just one perspective on a very complex issue. We've explored the claims laid out in this particular article, but it's important to seek out diverse viewpoints and form your own informed opinions.
I'd like to leave you with a question to ponder. What are the broader implications of political rhetoric that employs violent language regardless of political affiliation? How does it impact our society, our institutions, and ultimately our future?
Those are some heavy questions to consider, but they're incredibly important. And as always, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this whole issue of violent rhetoric in politics? Drop a comment below, and let's keep this conversation going.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to The Deep Dive for more deep dives into the issues that matter.
See you next time, Deep Divers.